Let me read you one sentence. Iran walked away from Switzerland today with $300 billion committed, sanctions lifted, a naval blockade removed, frozen assets released, and 440 kilograms of uranium still enriched to 60%, untouched, uninspected, inside Iranian territory. The United States walked away with a meeting, scheduled for 60 days from now. Now, before you decide what you think about that, I need you to do something unusual. I need you to forget every headline you read today. Forget what Trump posted. Forget what Al Jazeera called it. Forget what Reuters said. I need you to look at a single document. Article 13 of the Memorandum of Understanding signed in Bergenstock, Switzerland, June 22, 2026. Article 13 says this: nuclear negotiations, the actual conversation about Iran's weapons program, the reason this war started, cannot begin until the United States has already implemented everything Iran asked for economically. You read that correctly. Iran embedded the sequence inside the legal document. America signed it. And here's the question no major news organization asked today. If you've already paid, what do you have left to negotiate with? Most people covering this story are asking, did America win or lose the negotiation? That's the wrong question. The right question is, how did America end up negotiating from the weaker position in the first place? Because 4 months ago, the United States launched the largest military operation in the Middle East since the Iraq War. Operation Epic Fury. Stated goal: destroy Iran's nuclear infrastructure, eliminate its ballistic missile capability, trigger regime change. In less than 24 hours. For a country of 87 million people that has been building its defense architecture specifically against American military doctrine for 2 decades. That assumption, that this would be fast, decisive, and clean, is where everything that happened today was born. The Greeks had a word for it: hubris. Not ordinary arrogance, something more precise. The specific blindness of a power that believes the normal rules of reality no longer apply to it. And the Greeks also documented with uncomfortable precision what always comes next. Here's what I want you to understand about the strategic environment America entered on February 28th. The United States was not fighting one war. It was fighting 3. Front 1, Iran. Direct military engagement, Operation Epic Fury. Missiles, airstrikes, naval operations in the Persian Gulf. Front 2, China. A technology war. Semiconductor export controls designed to cut off Chinese access to the advanced chips needed for military modernization and AI development. Hundreds of billions of dollars invested in this campaign. Front 3, Russia-Ukraine. Still supplying Ukraine. Still trying to prevent Russia from consolidating a strategic victory that would lock in a Russia-China-Iran axis permanently. 3 fronts, 1 country, finite ammunition, finite political will. And then one number made all 3 problems visible at once. The acting Secretary of the Navy announced publicly that the United States was pausing a $14 billion weapons sale to Taiwan. Not canceling, pausing. Because America did not have enough munitions to fight in Iran and simultaneously supply Taiwan. The country that spends more on defense than the next 10 nations combined had to tell its most strategically important Pacific partner, we're a little short right now. That is not a logistics problem. That is a strategic signal. And every actor in this system, China, Russia, Iran, read it immediately. The Strait of Hormuz is 21 miles wide at its narrowest point. Through those 21 miles flows 20% of the world's daily oil and liquefied natural gas. Not some of it, a fifth of all global energy supply. Japan depends on it. South Korea depends on it. Germany, India, China, all of them. Iran closed it. Now, the United States Navy can project more firepower in that region than any force in human history. But here's the mathematical problem that no aircraft carrier solves. Every time America shot down an Iranian attack drone with a Patriot interceptor missile, Iran spent approximately $5,000. America spent $4 million. Iran was winning economically in every single exchange. And Iran wasn't fighting conventionally. They were using something military analysts call mosaic defense. Thousands of small, cheap, distributed units operating independently with no central command structure to target, no headquarters to strike, no kill shot that collapses the system. You can kill individual pieces indefinitely. The system adapts around the damage like a biological organism. But the military dimension isn't what forced America to the table. Four other variables did. Variable 1, the Gulf states said no. Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar. 50 years of partnership. They refused to allow American operations from their soil or airspace, not because they support Iran, but because they made a rational calculation. Open your territory to American strikes, become Iran's next legitimate target. Self-preservation over alliance loyalty. Variable 2, Russia and China as the Persia-Sparta axis. China continued buying 80 to 90% of Iran's oil publicly, in open defiance of American sanctions. There are credible reports of banned NVIDIA chips reaching Iran through intermediaries. Russia provided diplomatic cover at the UN Security Council, blocking every resolution. Athens didn't lose the Peloponnesian War because Sparta was stronger. Athens lost when Persia decided to fund Sparta. In 2026, China and Russia played the Persian role, keeping Iran in the fight without firing a single shot. Variable 3, Europe refused. Germany's defense minister said publicly that the cork in the Strait of Hormuz was pushed there by Donald Trump, not by Europe. Trump had publicly criticized Giorgia Meloni, his closest European ally. He attacked Germany. He attacked France. Instead of rallying an alliance, he fragmented one. Variable 4, new mediators emerged. Pakistan and Qatar became the actual architects of the peace process. The joint statement came from Pakistan and Qatar. The roadmap was announced by Pakistan and Qatar. The United States signed on to an agenda set by countries it has historically treated as secondary players. For the first time since at least 1973, America was not the central mediator of its own Middle Eastern conflict. Here is the thing I cannot understand why every major news organization failed to explain clearly today. Normal arms control sequencing works like this: verify, then reward. You demonstrate compliance first. I verify it. Then you receive the economic benefits you want. This is how the 2015 JCPOA worked. Iran dismantled centrifuges, reduced its enrichment stockpile, allowed IAEA inspectors in, and then, only then, did sanctions lift. Iran just reversed that logic entirely, and the United States agreed to it. What Iran receives immediately, before any nuclear negotiation even begins: oil and petrochemical export sanctions waived, naval blockade lifted, frozen assets in Qatar released, a $300 billion reconstruction and development fund launched. What does the United States receive in exchange? A calendar entry. 60 days from now, and then Article 13 makes it legally irreversible. Nuclear talks cannot commence until America has already implemented every economic concession. Iran embedded the sequence inside the document itself. Iran gets paid before the work begins. From a game theory perspective, this is textbook commitment sequencing with first mover advantage. Whoever acts second on the nuclear question can always wait, can always see whether the first party has fully delivered before reciprocating. Iran controls the sequence. Iran acts second. Iran already received its first mover benefits. This is not diplomatic clumsiness. Iran's negotiating team studied the JCPOA for years. They identified every leverage point surrendered in 2015. They built a new structure that doesn't repeat those mistakes. Now consider what day 61 looks like. Iran is still selling oil. Iran still has its frozen assets. Iran's economy is stabilizing, and Iran still has 440 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium sitting untouched inside its territory. Uranium that by the agreement will be, quote, diluted in place under eventual IAEA supervision at a time to be agreed. A time to be agreed. After all the economic benefits have already been delivered. What leverage does the United States hold on day 61? Every card America had, sanctions, blockade, asset freezes, no has already been played. Before a single centrifuge was discussed. I want to be rigorous here because if I only show you one side of this, I'm doing propaganda, not analysis. Here is the most honest version of the argument for what America agreed to. 1. America ended a genuinely catastrophic economic situation without a ground war. Oil at $126 per barrel wasn't sustainable. At that price, with that level of supply disruption, global recession wasn't a risk. It was a mathematical certainty. Ending it at any cost prevented something objectively worse. 2. The deconfliction cell for Lebanon is a genuine innovation. A direct communication channel between American and Iranian military officials, designed to prevent accidental escalation where both countries have overlapping interests. That is not nothing. 3. The 60-day roadmap creates a structure. It brings technical experts into the same room. It gives the pragmatic factions inside Iran, and they exist, even if they aren't powerful enough to control policy, political cover to make concessions. An Iran that is economically stabilizing has less internal pressure to be a permanent spoiler. A reasonable person can look at this deal and say, given 3 exhausted military fronts, given the economic pressure, given what the alternatives were, maybe this was the least bad option available. That is a legitimate argument. It has real logic. But here is what the steelman cannot explain away. Former Assistant Secretary of State David Shanker said it plainly today. The United States demonstrated it wanted a deal more than Iran did. And when you want a deal more than the other side, they see it. They price accordingly. Every concession signals desperation. Every concession invites the next demand. There is also Article 2, the non-interference clause. Both parties commit to not interfering in each other's internal affairs. This single sentence officially ends American support for regime change in Iran, at the precise moment when the Iranian government is most economically vulnerable, most politically exposed. America has legally guaranteed their sovereignty from external pressure. And finally, the most tactically embarrassing variable. While J.D. Vance's team was working through the night in Switzerland to hold this agreement together, President Trump was posting threats on social media. The Iranian delegation walked out of the joint session, not because of anything Iran's hardliners did, because the American president publicly undermined his own negotiating team in real time from his phone. Iran's response? Elegant. They refused to engage with Trump's post directly. They let Pakistan and Qatar absorb the pressure. They continued negotiating through the mediators, never appearing to respond to American threats. Iran got everything it wanted while never appearing to capitulate. That is not chaos. That is choreography. Watch Lebanon first. Iran's foreign minister said openly that Lebanon is the first real test of whether this MOU means anything. Israel's defense minister said the military will stay in southern Lebanon, but notably said nothing about offensive operations. Military analysts are reading that omission as a quiet concession to American pressure. But if there is any significant Israeli military action in Lebanon in the next 72 hours, any airstrike, any ground push that Iran can frame as a ceasefire violation, Iran has legal grounds to declare the agreement broken before it formally begins. The deconfliction cell is the first domino. Watch the technical teams in Switzerland. Iran left its senior negotiating delegation in Bergenstock. If those teams make real progress on specific legal language around sanctions waivers and asset release timelines, Iran is treating the 60-day window seriously. If they introduce maximalist demands, stall on definitions, or add new conditions, Iran is using technical talks to buy time while economic benefits continue to flow. The details coming out of Switzerland in the next 3 days will tell you more about this deal's future than any press conference. Watch Trump's social media. I say this with complete analytical seriousness. The single greatest ongoing threat to this agreement is not Iran's Revolutionary Guard. It is not Russia. It is not Israeli hardliners. It is the American president's phone. Every time Trump posts a threat, and based on observed behavior during the actual negotiations today, this will happen. Iran has a documented, legitimate reason to slow walk its implementation commitments. They use this play today. They will run it every time an opportunity appears. Let me give you the convergence. America went to war to destroy Iran's nuclear program. America ended up paying Iran $300 billion to maintain it for at least 60 more days. America went to war to preserve its position as the dominant power in the Middle East. America ended up watching Pakistan and Qatar take over as the architects of Middle Eastern diplomacy. America went to war to demonstrate military strength. America ended up freezing a $14 billion arms sale to Taiwan because it ran short of ammunition. America went to war to prevent the consolidation of a Russia-China-Iran axis. That axis has never been more consolidated. Now go back to Athens for a moment. After the Sicilian expedition destroyed the Athenian fleet, Athens did not process what had happened. They kept fighting. They executed their best generals for the failure. The democratic system degenerated. Demagogues rose. Factions formed. And Thucydides writes, with what I can only describe as surgical sadness, that Athens was not destroyed by Sparta's military superiority. Athens was destroyed by its refusal to acknowledge its own limitations, and by the corruption that refusal produced internally. Now look at what is happening in the hours after this agreement. Trump is posting that he will hit Iran very hard if they don't comply. Senator Graham is on television calling the ceasefire a disaster. Pentagon hawks are circulating plans for American seizure of the Strait of Hormuz, charging tolls to passing vessels. This is not a country that has processed the lesson of what happened in the last 4 months. This is a country still inside its blindness. And the question that nobody in any of those press conferences today was brave enough to ask is this. Iran closed a strait 21 miles wide, and with those 21 miles, a country with a fraction of America's military budget forced the most powerful military in human history to reverse its negotiating position, surrender its sanctions leverage, release frozen assets, commit to a reconstruction fund, and agree to a 60-day process, all before a single nuclear centrifuge was discussed. If Thucydides were alive today, and you showed him the sequence of events from February 28th to June 22nd, I think he would say, I wrote this. I described every stage of this exact pattern, and you did not read my book carefully enough. The strong do what they can, but wisdom determines what they should. The question for the next 60 days, and honestly for the next decade, is whether the United States has enough wisdom left to know the difference. 3 things. All of them publicly available. 1. Read the full joint statement from Pakistan and Qatar released today. Then read Iranian Foreign Minister Araghchi's statement on his Telegram channel. Compare how each side describes what was agreed. The Iranians describe what they received in specific, concrete terms. The mediators describe general achievements. That gap is where the actual ambiguity lives. That's the space Iran will use over the next 60 days. 2. Find the comments David Shanker and Joey Hood gave to Al Jazeera today. Both worked inside the American foreign policy establishment. Both are saying, in different ways, that America got the worst end of this deal. When the architects of a system publicly question whether the system is working, that is not commentary. That is a signal. 3. Read the Melian dialogue from Thucydides. It is short. It is brutal. It is the most uncomfortable thing ever written about power and its consequences. And then ask yourself, Is America right now behaving like Athens in the Melian dialogue, telling the weak that the strong do what they can and the weak suffer what they must? Or is America behaving like Athens after Sicily, a power that has already lost the thing it was most afraid of losing and doesn't quite know it yet? I don't have a clean answer to that question, but I think sitting with it, genuinely sitting with it, not rushing to a comfortable conclusion, is the most useful thing any of us can do right now.